I must be in trouble. Hello, Vicky.
Not at all. I just sometimes love to say your full name. It just rolls off my tongue.
That is all the Hollis to that. Hmm.
Quite, quite.
Sounds like I'm in
And
trouble.
yeah, well, you're not in trouble, my love. Here we are on LinkedIn, broadcasting to the world. We're having a conversation today about one of the things that no doubt you see often as a divorce coach. Before we get into the conversation, I'd love to introduce you. Um, and the topic today is about guilt. Making the decision to leave a relationship is rarely clean and it's rarely simple. And for a lot of people, even when they know it's the right call for all the right reasons, it can still feel guilt ridden. Guilt about kids, guilt about hurting someone they still care about, guilt about changing the life that they built together. So, Thad, you're a qualified divorce coach, conflict coach,
Mhm.
and accredited mediator, an FDRP, which I think is worth explaining because not everybody knows what an FDRP is. So, that's a family dispute resolution practitioner. And it all fits in with the family law courts as far as I understand it. You can set me straight on that. But this is the kind of thing that you help people with every day, before, during, or after separation or divorce. So,
Mhm.
can we talk about what goes on when guilt hits you pretty hard in these decisions?
Well, thank you, Vicky, for all of that. But I want to just back up. So you're feeling guilt, and what is the guilt causing from? So, you've made a decision to leave, and there's, getting to that decision, weighing it up. How are we gonna have the difficult conversation? When are we gonna have the difficult conversation? Why am I feeling guilty? Because I know I need to leave, but what is all that about? And as you already said, you have feelings, and no one. And we've said this before on this in this format. I have yet to meet anyone who entered a marriage on their wedding day going, "How am I going to separate?" You know, it's people look at this. So there's the grief of a loss of a dream. There's the guilt of hurting somebody that you cared for. Whether you care for them as deeply now is not as relevant, but you still have feelings. So how are you going to navigate that feeling? And guilt can be a sign that, you know, it's okay. Think of it as I love this. I got this from somewhere else. Think of it as you're driving a vehicle, it's the passenger in the seat next to you. Guilt is there to keep your feelings honest. Because if you didn't have guilt, then you would be pretty cold, pretty heartless. And you'd be looking at somebody and saying, I don't care about you. Our story together doesn't matter. The fact that we had kids or we have pets or any of those things are irrelevant. I know you are gone to me. Well, that's not true because guilt is sitting there telling you that there is a feeling, there is something that's happening, and that it's okay to have that because it's a barometer of where we're really sitting right here, not here. Because in our head, we can be cold and heartless, but in our hearts, and that's where 99.9 of us live. That's where we really live, is we loved passionately. We will separate passionately. I've seen that. But I'll remind people that the guilt is I love the passenger that holds us there to tell us it's okay. Um, but it's not in charge. Do not we it's not letting guilt dictate the actions. Just know that it's there, but don't let it overplay its hand.
Yeah, I love that analogy that you brought because when it's in the passenger seat, it's not in control. It's not the
Right.
driver, right? But
Exactly.
often guilt feels like it is driving us and it will drive behavior and we'll do things that are out of character or we'll act out or we'll say things that we wouldn't have said if we'd not been overcome by that emotion. And so
Yeah.
you've identified a really important thing that guilt isn't who you are, it's an emotion that you're feeling. Because
Hmm.
we don't often think of guilt as an emotion. We feel like
No.
it's a situation. Oh, I feel guilty. It's who I am in this moment. And to be able to rightly identify it as an emotion, it's a
Well,
feeling. It's
yeah, and the
something that will
syntax,
pass through as well.
yeah, this the syntax of language is that, we think of guilty as it's a criminal offense. It's you've committed an offense of some type, right? So I feel guilty, so I must be wrong
Or bad.
and bad, or I'm not a good person at all.
Mm.
And so I want to encourage people today just to think of guilt as something that tells you that you have a feeling and that there is feelings for the other person, that it's okay. It's guilty about how am I going to talk to the children, guilty about, what am I going to do? How am I going to have this conversation? Why am I leaving? And it's not so much to second guess, but use guilt as someone, and I said it just a minute ago, it keeps you honest, but it doesn't drive the situation because we'll overcompensate. I have seen it from the position of, well, we're getting to the property settlement and we want to have the mediation prior to going to any court settlement or getting our lawyers to look at it. And folks, property negotiation, even with a mediator, after you get the agreement, always have your lawyer vet it. Always get legal advice. But I'm going to say that, they overcompensate. They're saying, because I feel guilty, so, I'm going to let you have everything. And it's like, well, why strip yourself of assets that you built up when you can walk away and you've got an opportunity to rebuild here? It's not going to be the same as it was. There's going to be some loss. There's going to be grief. There's going to be sadness. There's going to be a sense of loss. But allow guilt to take over and strip everything isn't going to fare well, particularly if you've got kids. How are you going to? And so we're now in what we call the gray divorce. What if you got grandkids? How are you going to accommodate them? When are you going to see them if you have nothing left? So, not letting guilt dictate our actions,
This is
but
a
allow it to.
really interesting one because I feel like
Hmm.
guilt is quite often we throw money at
Yeah,
guilt. I've
yeah.
seen, people do that, friends, family, probably even in my own life, right? It's like, well, if I just give them everything,
Hmm.
then I won't be burdened by this feeling that I did something wrong, or perhaps it's a way of making up. I feel bad that I've created pain, I've caused pain. So if I do this, it will ease the pain.
Yep. Assuaging the guilt. We basically think of that from the French and Latin, that we're basically trying to buy our way out of a feeling. And you can't. Feelings are feeling. Feelings, here's the key that I had to learn a long time ago. Feelings will not kill me, but feelings are important to tell me that something's happening.
And then
And what's
sometimes
happening?
what I'm hearing is that there might still be a bit of love or care for the person that you feel like you've caused pain for.
Well, whether you've spent 5 years or 50 years with somebody, tell me that you don't have a feeling for them. You may feel an intense dislike, but if you've had a family together, you've lived together, you've created a dream together, you've manifested things together, to then turn around and go, I have no feelings. Well, one, we're not androids, we're not robots. We actually are human beings with feelings. And the other thing is to negate that feeling would be dishonest. And honesty is a really important thing because guilt tells us that we have honest feelings. And then we need to learn how to be honest with ourselves and honest in our communication. We're going to talk about communication again, right? Because communicating is really important because we allow our guilt to override how we really feel, then we're going to be lying. And if we're lying, we're never going to be honest. We're going to give away the shop, or we're going to try and hold back stuff, or we're going to say, well, I'm feeling guilty, but I need this and I don't want that, or, stop.
Mhm.
We've said this, we have to breathe, pause, take some time, think, get some help, talk to somebody, right? This is not a journey that one does alone. Guilt tells us that we're okay. We're going to have to fix this, that this is wrong. So just buy it off. But talk to somebody. Get hold of a divorce coach. Talk to a therapist. Talk to a counselor. Talk to a psychologist. Talk to somebody who you know is independent, that's not necessarily your best mate, because your best mate's going to tell you and help feed some of the guilt or to deny that you have that honest feeling. Talk to someone who's going to actually say it's okay to feel guilty. It's okay to have that guilt, but don't let it become shame. Right? Don't let
Oh,
guilt turn to fear. Yeah, shame. I'm getting divorced. I'm a failure. No, that's again guilt talking.
mm, interesting. Interesting that you bring up shame too, because I do
Yeah.
sense that the party leaving the relationship may be self-talking
Hmm.
themselves into feeling like they're the bad guy, they're bad girl, bad guy, they're the villain. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it true that the person who's ending the relationship is automatically the villain of that story?
I want to say it's situational, but of course not. Of
Yeah.
course not. You're leaving a situation for a number of reasons. And it may be, you know, this has been a really tough relationship for me. I haven't been able, but honest communication as to the why. Because if you're going to leave feeling guilty and just trying to and sever relationships, how do you do that?
Mm.
How can you do that without hurting somebody? So knowing that this is going to have pain, knowing that the other person is going to feel anguish, disappointment, but so's the person leaving. That this isn't an unequal equation. This is an equation that has its different weights. It's going to be, I'm feeling guilty about leaving and making the decision to leave. The other person may feel angry that you're making the decision to leave, but it's also going to be driven by some fears. And the fear of how to have a conversation. What are you honestly ending their relationship for? Right?
Yeah.
And, yeah. And it's not
I feel like
about,
this is a
yeah,
story that
yeah.
doesn't have a villain. There is no villain. Both people are
Oh,
hurt. Both people carry guilt. Both people carry shame. Both people carry fear. Both people carry grief.
yeah. The semantics of language is that we talk about guilt. So in
Mm,
guilt, there's someone who is a jury, and usually in our head, has now passed sentence.
right.
And the gavel goes down. You are guilty. The other party is innocent in this. And we have this black or white. It is either on or off. It's a light switch. And if relationships were like that, we wouldn't be human, right? They're not. Relationships are very much about there's layers, there's complexities, but when you're leaving, you're sad, you feel guilty, you're hurting the other person, you're disappointing them. You may be disappointing your in-laws who you're really fond of. You may be disappointing the children if you've got children, you know, how you're going to look at the dog in the eyes again. All these things, right, that we think of. But understand that, go back to the analogy, the passenger is trying to tell you how to steer the car.
Mm,
It's a feeling. It's okay.
mm.
All right. So
Mm,
let's just talk about honesty, because if guilt is going to be the passenger, then how do we end the relationship? But if we end it with communication that's honest, that it comes from the heart, not the head, the heart, right? We do ourselves a service, and we're doing service to the other person. You know, I'm ending it, to say, well, it's not you, it's me. That's not honest. I've just felt we haven't been connecting for a while. This isn't about a failure on your part. This has just been we've been drifting apart, and I'm going to be moving out. And the other person is going to try and plead or maybe say, well, don't move out. And you say, look, I feel really bad and sad about this, but it's not honest for me to stay because this isn't working. And I'm using an imaginary dialogue, but it's an important dialogue to have, because if you just leave, there's so much unsaid. But if you can actually help with the closure, and this is where a divorce coach can help, a psychologist can help, a therapist can help, somebody to help you with the closure language. Because too often we'll just sort of brush over it and say, well, it really doesn't matter. I know I feel guilty. I feel some shame around it, but everyone does. I just need to move on. But I'm going to make a promise to everyone listening that when we do that, we'll repeat it again in the next relationship. Those things which weren't working in this relationship, we're going to do it again. Because closure gives us the opportunity to examine ourselves and our own behaviors and what is part of the relationship. So think of guilt as a way of opening the door to having honest dialogue.
Wow, that's good. Yeah. So if you
Yeah.
feel guilt, it's opening the door to get more honest with yourself and
Yes.
the other person. And I can only imagine that getting honest with yourself brings you closure. It's as much about you having closure as it is about allowing the opportunity for the other person to have closure. Because if we can articulate why this matters to us and why we have to make these decisions and do take the next steps, that brings clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And quite often, as you said, we rush through it and just know that it feels bad. And so we're getting out. We just got to avoid the pain or feel bad. I mean, we move away from pain. We're more likely to move away from pain than we are to go towards pleasure, right? So
Correct.
that's just the human condition. So if we're moving away from pain and we just know that this is the right thing to do because it won't hurt anymore, is that really clear and honest with ourselves about what's truly going on? And perhaps addressing that pain and just, like you said, getting guidance from a coach or a psychologist to understand the pain, because that pain often comes from within, not from the partnership.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
so I feel like there'd be a much cleaner, like that grief, what you just said about grief being the door to open an
guilt.
honest conversation with self.
Yeah.
That's gold.
Do you know the hardest conversation is usually from my head to my heart, right? Because it's in that place of genuine caring and love, I can have the conversation. I can create an environment where I mean no harm to myself and to those that I'm having conversations with. So imagine now that someone's made a decision to leave the relationship and they feel guilty. They feel shame. They're sad. Well, having an honest dialogue about the why and saying, well, I haven't been satisfied in this relationship. Well, what is it that's not been satisfactory in the relationship? Where has there been miscommunication? Where has there been a failure? Right? Because every time I've had to look at my own actions in anything, it's never, I always want to assign the blame to someone else. I want to assign blame. This is happening because you make me feel. This is my best 3-year-old imitation, right? And it is
It
very
gets a bit like
much
that,
that.
doesn't it?
It does.
The
The
3-year-old can come
reality
back.
is, yeah, no one makes me feel. I feel. I do this to myself. My own internal triggers, my own internal dialogue creates the dilemma within myself. So having the honest conversation creates opportunity to do things in a clean, clear way that's not intentionally hurtful. I can't say it won't be hurtful because it will hurt. But if I'm not putting my knife in the other person's gut to sort of say, well, this is your fault and I'm leaving because you haven't listened to me in 3 years. Well, one, have I had anything interesting to say? And two, have I really been participating or has my mouth been running and my ears been closed? Instead of taking the opportunity to maybe hear what the other party, my partner, had to tell me. It's always a question that I'll ask because it's a journey that I have to get out of my own ego. So I'm stop tripping over my sense of self-importance so that I can now listen to the other party. And so it's even more crucial in ending the relationship because in ending the relationship, I have an opportunity to learn something more about myself.
And going back to what you said about not carrying that into the next relationship, that
Yeah,
learning
absolutely.
about yourself in that moment is so key
Yeah.
to growing, to growing and evolving and knowing that your next relationship isn't based on the quality of who you choose to be in relationship with. It's actually based on the quality of your relationship with yourself.
Because the first dance that we really have is with ourselves. And think of a relationship as a choreography. Right? I may not. I may have chosen the partner that steps on my toes, or I step on theirs. And after years of stepping on each other's toes, would there not be some bruises
Mm,
emotionally, some misunderstandings that isn't healthy? Why would I want to stay? Why would I want them to stay? So
mm,
inviting the dialogue to say, I haven't done this well. And
mm,
for that, I'm sorry, but I still care. And I want to end this in a good way that's going to help both of us transition through a time. It's going to be a lot of pain and grief and misunderstanding. And we're not going to communicate at our best because we're grieving the dream that we once had
mm.
and
And
acknowledging that I feel, you can say, I feel guilty doing this. And, you know, and I apologize for the way that this may go, but I want to do this in the best way possible, but not selling ourselves out, because we owe
mm,
it to ourselves to hold firm to our own truths and not be unkind, but be honest. Again, honesty in the communication.
mm, that's beautiful. I feel like perhaps we shield or mask our communication during difficult conversations because we feel like it's expected that we either have it all together or we have all the answers or we're doing this and we know why we're doing it or just there's expectations around our communication when a difficult conversation is happening, and this is more than a difficult conversation. This is the end of a relationship we're talking about, so there's all the other things that come with that. And so, you know, honesty and communication, not having shame or acknowledging if there is a sense of shame and then being okay with it, knowing that you don't need to beat yourself up
Mhm.
uh, around your behaviors and your actions. And then I find that sometimes the cleanest conversations are the ones where you can say, I don't really know what I'm experiencing. Let's just be so honest at that level where it's like, I may not have all the answers around this yet, but this is what I know so far.
Mhm.
Does that muddy the waters when you're in a separation thing, or would it be okay to share that level of honesty?
As we're talking, I'm thinking television drama. We are so used to watching television drama, and we forget that in 47 minutes, we get in, if it's TV or if it's a film, it's going to be 2 hours. That we get the beginning, the middle, and the end, and everything's got a nice little bow around it in this closure, and people seem to know exactly what they're looking for and have all the right words. Understand that they're actors from a script, and we're neither actors nor do we have a script when we're going through this, because the script is ours and it's going to be personal to us. So I want to back it up and say it's okay to have that, but to say I don't know is going to be a really hard thing for the other party to hear. Your partner's not going to want to hear, I don't know. They're going to know why. And you're going to go, because this hasn't been the best. And maybe explain what has been for you. Because assigning blame is not grounded. We want to be grounded in our story, grounded in our truth, grounded in the reasons how we feel and why we think we need to take this action. But to sit there and say to the other party, well, I don't like the way you squeeze the toothpaste. It's not a reason to leave. It is a reason to leave, to say there's been so many little things that I haven't been able to talk to you about, but I'm not in love with you anymore. And I'm not in love with anybody else, or, whatever the reasons are. I'm leaving because this isn't our truth. And I feel that I'm holding you back as well as myself.
Mhm.
Yeah, the honesty, and I'm imagining the scenario, but just some phrases that you could use that may be a truth for that person saying that. But the truth is going to be revealed much more as you start to unravel what the relationship has served. Because every relationship serves us. Every relationship gives us life lessons, which we can then carry forward. And if we don't learn them, they will be repeated. Repetition is the key of how this universe likes to unfold things until we get it. And, life isn't linear. It doesn't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Life tends to go 1, 3, 7, 5, 3 back to, it jumps around a little bit. Things don't quite go. But if you think of a progression, and I love how one of my teachers put it, that life is more of a learning of a spiral. We're going up all the time. But as we go through things, we're going to touch on things that are triggers, that are traumas that we've had in the past, and they're going to help heal a little bit at a time as long as we're self-aware and we're willing to learn. As one of my old mentors told me, my job today is to remain teachable. Being teachable helps me remember that I don't need to have all the answers all the time. I don't even need to have all the answers, although I once believed that about myself. But the truth is that if I just say, I don't know, but this is how it feels, and this is what I need to do because of my safety. Safety is another reason why relationships end, and guilt can still happen in safety, that, it's a DV situation and you need to leave. And I've watched that happen, and there's still guilt.
Violence.
Domestic violence. There's still guilt when the person who's experiencing domestic violence leaves. Yes, and it's helping them understand that safety is more important than the emotional tie or the guilt that's going to make you stay in a situation that may not be healthy or safe.
Mm.
So there's a number of reasons that happen, but I just wanted to touch on that. I was at a meeting this morning and we talked about domestic violence, and like 50% of marriages experience that. It was one statistic that we heard today. And I said, well, let's be clear. Those are the ones that are reported. There's been people who have experienced that in their lives one time or another, and different forms of domestic violence. So it's just something I wanted to touch on, that even in situations like that, people feel guilty. This isn't, oh, I'm making a clean break. It's anybody time we have feelings for somebody, we're afraid to hurt them. And that's called guilt.
Thank you, Thad. It's a big topic. We do just usually assign 30 minutes to this conversation, and it's a way of helping, of really offering hope, offering guidance, offering insights, inspiration, resources, and perhaps a shifted perspective, some different way of seeing something that will serve you better. So
Yes.
you, as in people watching this is really an opportunity for anyone who is considering separation or has already done so and is still navigating the feelings, the logistics, the practicalities, the unexpected events, anything that you navigate before, during, or after separation or divorce. That's what a divorce coach helps with. And I think it's just wonderful that we can have these conversations every week so that people who need this level of support know it's available, whether that's through you as a divorce coach or another divorce coach. It's a thing. It's a thing. This is a thing. There is such a thing as divorce coaches. I keep saying that because when I mention divorce coaching, people just raise their eyebrow and say, what is that? Is that a thing? Like, is that just a name you came up with? No, this is a qualification. It's an important conversation that isn't had in other rooms. And that's why a divorce coach is so special, because you bring together so much around this very topic and you become a specialist in how to help people through various scenarios that arise. So thank you. Thank you for bringing your insights, for sharing your knowledge, your experiences, and for anyone watching, or family lawyers who have clients who feel like they could really benefit from this kind of support and guidance, by all means, reach out to Thad at admin@betteroutcomes.au. And you've worked with clients all around the world, haven't you? So it doesn't have to be in Australia. It can be in any country. And you tend to just make those time zones work for people. So it's beautiful.
Yep. Help people wherever they are and wherever they need the help. That's what we're here for.
Yeah. Thanks. See you next week. Look forward to it.
Yep.
Well, I'll see you at the lunch
Sooner than
table.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're gonna have break bread together and do that.
Sounds
Yes.
great. Thanks for watching. If you're watching live, we're with you. We're here with you and for you. And if you're watching on the replay, just let us know if you have questions. You can reach that anytime. Okay.
Absolutely.
See you soon.
See you soon.